Okay, so we'll just wait a little while till get a number of people attending. 8:30. All right.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Fine, thank you. How are you? Happy
Very
New
well.
Year, by the way.
Yes, Happy New Year. Blimey, yeah.
Happy New Year.
Seems a while ago now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good, good. Nice to see you and everybody else who's joined us. A warm welcome. We'll just wait another minute or two and then we'll get started. Yeah, as Esther's saying there, if anybody's got one of those numeric identities, if you can just change it to your name, please, we'd appreciate that. As we're waiting, you'll see on the screen here, just to sort of get the chat going. If you could just put on the chat, what does what does it say here? What does AI bots mean to you in 3 words? Right. So if you just kind of think of a 3 word phrase that kind of says what AI bots mean to you. So it could be, I don't know, irritating, irritating, irritating if you get sales calls at tea time or whatever you think, anything that comes to mind. It'd be nice to see that. And we can perhaps refer there you are, supporting manual work. That's a good one. Thank you very much. There's one. All right. So any keep them coming. Plenty of those, please. Uh, okay. Consistency, consistency, consistency. Thank you. So yes, so there's many different already. Quick assistance, that's lovely. So many different views to this. So we're going to have a good old session today. I can see. Skepticism, hope, and caution. There we go. I think that could perhaps be a corporate logo or something, or some kind of Latin phrase, right? Okay. All right, so it's 8:31 and so we'll get started. So but also irritating. Yes. Yes, we're going to have we're going to have plenty of that today. Okay. Loss of personal contact and customer relationships. Yep, we're going to cover quite a few of these things today. So thank you. I can see it's going to be a lively old chat today. Fantastic. So a very warm welcome, everybody. Our first credit clinic of 2025. Blimey, that's kind of quite terrifying in itself, 2025. So today I'm delighted to welcome Neil Everstead and Martin Nielsen. Two
Guys,
gentlemen, it's been my pleasure to know for a few months now, and their energy, enthusiasm, foresight, visions, and so on. It's a pleasure to work with these guys. We've had hours of conversations already. Um, and really looking forward to sharing this session with you in the next hour or so today. Little bit of housekeeping, as always, for those of you regulars and new people. We're recording this session for CPD accreditation, continuous professional development. You'll receive a certificate in the not too distant future, showing that you've invested 1 hour of your time in this event this morning. The recording will go into our members section. So if you want to know more about that, contact us afterwards. But in the meantime, yeah, very interactive as always. Well, if you have a comment, a question, and you disagree, you agree with anything, please put it in the chat, and we'll come back to as many of the chat comments. Or indeed, if you want to talk, even better, we'll get to as many of these as we can through the next hour. Okay. So without any further ado, I think if we can go to the next slide, where I'm going to hand over now to Martin, who's going to briefly introduce himself, Mega AI. Then we'll hand it over to Neil, who will introduce himself, and then talk through the case study through this morning. Okay. So over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mark, so much. And it's a big pleasure to be here to the Credit Clinic and the first of the year that I am allowed to be a part of. So thank you for that. Thank you for attending today. I'm Martin Nielsen. I'm one of the co-founders of Mega AI that, yeah, we're going to talk a little bit today. And I'm actually not coming from your industry, so the whole order to cash industry for me was something that I got very, very big into like a year ago. And Mark, as you said, I spent hours and hours and hours with you also to understand and learn more together with customers and partners. I actually used to run one of the largest outbound and inbound operation in the Scandinavian countries. I'm located and placed in Denmark. I used to have more than 500 human reps sitting and doing outbound and inbound call, and I did hundred thousands of them a month. I used to run that company for more than 16 years before I sold it. So that's a little bit of my background. The whole outbound and industry is where I started actually when I was 17 years old, and now, just 10th of January, I turned 45. So I went in and never really left it again. And now I'm using all that to create AI voice bot to support human teams. So that's a little bit about myself. And a little bit about Mega, or you can say the problem we solve. It's actually the problems that I faced in over 20 years running huge, large outbound and inbound operation. And when I came into this industry, the order to cash and the collection industry, I saw that we had a lot in common, because a lot of the processes, a lot of the pain points, a lot of the problems I faced in my operations, I can see that my customers in the order to cash and collection space has precisely the same. So some of them that I wanted to solve was that it took between 5 to 10 minutes, and sometimes when there's dispute handling, etc., a lot longer to handle every debtor when we needed to call and handle the first initial dialogue, etc. It took a lot of time. How could we enhance that? 60 to 70% of all the calls didn't return back with some answers or contact with human debtors. So how could I enhance that when my humans sat on the phone, spending their time there, that they actually had real dialogues with real customers and not were behind all the time, because that's actually, some of the big thing actually just in my industry, in your business industry, that they were always too many calls. They didn't get through, or inbound lines that were overheated and queues, etc. So that was also a problem that I wanted to solve. And then you can say the biggest problem was actually that there was a high turnover of staff. My staff, they went 6, 8, 10 months in my company, and because they did repetitive tasks all day long, and humans are not necessarily super happy with repetitive tasks, but should use their communication skills where that is needed. So how could I get rid of the repetitive task and let the humans, my humans and also my customers' humans, colleagues, spend their time on valuable conversation? And again, the thought, we can only as a human make amount of calls every day and not falling behind. So those were the 4 biggest problems that I wanted to solve when we started building Mega. And next slide, Neil. As you can see, there is a little recorded file of an AI conversation out here. I won't play it now, but after this session here, I know Callisto will send out these slides afterwards. There will be a little possibility for you to hear an AI call, also a real call with a customer. So in general, Mega AI is created. Today it operates in all countries. It talks all language, all dialects. It do full inbound and outbound. And today it works on top of the funnel with the purpose of supporting human teams. So it takes the initial dialogues, it can do payment reminders, it can send out SMSs and emails, it can look in my customers' CRM systems, collection systems, it can solve all the issues when there's no need for a human. And when there is need for a human, and there is in a lot of conversations, especially in the, complex task of dispute handling, etc., we will transfer calls down to the human agents that will now use their time on relevant tasks and where they have need for human communication. So that's actually Mega in a little nutshell. We have the last year we have been working alongside partners like Callisto Grand and Mark Harrison and Neil Everstein to create solutions to the industry we're serving. So a little survey will come up here, a little where you can put in your answer, because it would be very interesting to see how do people actually feel about AI voice bot and to have or not to have it. So what are your expectations of using AI voice bots in your order to cash process within the next 12 months? Some will say no expectations. Some will say I'm interested, but I'm not convinced that this is high enough quality, that it will work well enough, that I will not harm my brand, but actually support my brand. And some will say something we need to explore further. So how do you feel? And maybe you have a feeling right now, and after Neil has talked a little bit about use cases and how it can be work, maybe in the end of the session, you will have another feeling. So please put in your vote how you feel and think right now, and then let's get some result on that in the end of this session. So as I said, for me, it's more important also because I'm coming from an industry that is close up to operation-wise, but to work with the best minds in the industry. That's why I'm proud that Neil and you, and we met a long time ago. We have been working alongside each other for the last 6 months. We have been talking about solutions and enhancing, and I'm trying to face the real problems that you have faced for many years. So I'm happy that you are here today also to explain a little bit about how do you actually in your world together with our common customer introduce AI voice bots to user cases in the order to cash space.
Just jump in there, gentlemen. How's the voting looking, Esther?
Yes, I'm just about to close it. So I'm going to show you the results right now.
Excellent.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
It's more than half is something they need to explore further. Yes.
I think that is a good poll, and it would be interesting to see if that has changed dramatically people in the end of the session. So Neil, thank you for being a part of the session also today.
Yep. Over to you now, Neil. Thank you, Martin.
Yeah, thanks, Martin. Thanks for the introduction. So yeah, good morning, everybody. Neil Everstead. Been in the profession for, I hate to say it, but for 30 years now, and probably like many of you on the call, it's not a profession that I actually envisaged embarking upon when I left university. So I left university, needed to save some money because I wanted to go traveling around the world. Got myself a contract as a temporary credit controller with BT Mobile in the UK. And 30 years later, I'm still in the profession, love it. And 30 years later, I still haven't traveled the world. So that's something I'll be putting off until I retire, I think now. Yeah, so I've been working in operational roles and consulting roles, worked for PwC for a period of time in the UK, in Europe, and also worked in North America, just south of New York for 4 years, heading up a billing and collections operation for a North American telecommunications company. So really interesting career. But I made a decision 12 months ago where I would close down that corporate laptop for the last time and join a company called PayDrive. So who are PayDrive? I like to refer to PayDrive as the new kid on the block. Relatively new, formed in 2021. So a little bit of background around the idea of PayDrive and where it came from. In the previous 10 years, I'd been working with a number of software solutions. I'd integrated with a couple of software solutions. And I have frustrations. I have frustrations around some of the functionality. Didn't do what I wanted it to do. Maybe I was a little bit fussy. I'm not too sure. But it didn't tick all the boxes from a functionality point of view. I found them incredibly complex in terms of the user experience and incredibly expensive. And over a beer, Christmas, December 2020, with a very old friend of mine who's a software developer, bitching and moaning about my frustrations with these software solutions, Rory threw down the gauntlet and said, well, if you could provide me with guidance as to what needs to be built, I can build this. So Rory set about starting PayDrive. In January 2021, he located an organization that would become the beta client for the evolution of PayDrive. And over the next 3 years, I worked with Rory, providing guidance and advice from afar, working evenings and weekends. And Rory built the solution up to the point whereby 12 months ago, I decided to jump ship and join Rory on the PayDrive Express and come co-owner. Now, what is PayDrive? It's an accounts receivable SaaS solution. And by that, obviously, it's in the cloud. And it's a solution that sits on top of your ERP or ERPs. So if you're using SAP or S/4HANA or Oracle, PayDrive sits on top of the ERP. Now, from a personal point of view, I've used and experienced SAP for the last 25 years. And whilst it is an excellent solution for a number of tasks, I refer to it, and it's quite a blunt description, but a jack of all trades, master of none. And I always felt that, yes, SAP would do the job. It would send out reminder letters, but it was quite inflexible. It was quite rigid. The user experience wasn't particularly great. I would refer to it as a steady Eddie. And being a big football fan, a Liverpool fan, using a metaphor, it's the only metaphor I will use, you're not going to win the Champions League with a team of steady Eddies. So solutions like PayDrive have come out of that desire to lift your operation out of the ordinary and really stretch the boundaries of what you can achieve in the orders to cash world. Over the last 12 months since I've been working with Rory on a full-time basis, we've been really focused on real challenges for real people. And by that, I'm talking about developing solutions to challenges that I had experienced whilst in an operational role like you guys are in today. Not being focused on nice glitzy dashboards and buttons that are going to appeal to the CFO, but building a solution that are going to resolve those real challenges that you have day in, day out, and focusing on the end user first and foremost. So everything that we build, the end user that's going to be sat there in front of PayDrive for many hours a day, first and foremost, that's our main concern in terms of the user experience. Now, before we actually get into the case study that Martin's alluded to, I thought it'd be good to provide you with an overview of the backbone of our solution, just to give you a visualization as to how it all fits together. So you can see here, we operate across multiple ERPs, if that's the ERP landscape that you have. There are companies out there that you've acquired businesses over time, and then those legacy ERPs remain part of your day-to-day challenge then forevermore. So PayDrive was built with the understanding that we're going to be dealing with companies that have a complex ERP landscape. We take data, we receive data from those ERPs. So it could be from S/4HANA, from SAP, from Oracle, from Navision, from Sage. We work with all of the well-known ERPs. And we receive data every day, overnight, with customer data and open items data. So if a new customer is created yesterday, that new customer will appear in PayDrive the following day. If new invoices were generated yesterday, those new invoices will appear in PayDrive. If invoices are cleared the previous day, they'll be cleared in PayDrive. So when your collectors come in at 9 o'clock, 8:30, whatever time they log in, their view of a customer in PayDrive is synchronized to the balance and the view within the ERP. And when I say that's the standard process, we are also now working with a client whereby we are pulling data from their platform. So they want to be able to see an updated view more frequently than every 24 hours. So we now have a process whereby through an API connection, we're able to actually talk to their database tables, pull the information. We still have a scheduled job that runs at 7 a.m. every day, but we also have provided their admin users with the ability to hit a refresh button at any point in time during the working day and then to update PayDrive. So for example, you may have your monthly review with the CFO and you want to ensure that your dashboards, your analytics are all up to date. So ahead of that meeting, you can refresh PayDrive and that will be synchronized with your ERP. So as I said, we're pulling this data or the customers are providing this data and the customer accounts are being updated. As part of that process, we run through a segmentation engine. So you could have 20,000 customers, 100,000 customers, and you want to be able to treat those customers based upon certain parameters that you've defined. So in very simplistic terms, I've put 3 examples here. So the first 3 customers, they will be assessed and put into the first segment, which I'm going to call strategic. So these are customers that you might want to treat with a sensitive hand. So they could be high value customers. So here the system is saying any customers whose account balance is over £500,000, we're going to put them into a bucket, into a segment that's going to be called strategic. The second group, this is where you may have a customer type within PayDrive, an industrial customer type. All customers with that customer type will be put into segment 2. The third segment is where we're referring to SME. This could be customers whose account balance is below a certain value, so below £500. So very, very simplistic segmentation to illustrate it. Our system can be very, very sophisticated. You can start to pull in information around delinquent days. So you may want to group customers based upon how many days beyond payment terms do they ordinarily pay, because we track and we manage all that information. So once a customer has been segmented, each segment is assigned a strategy. So this is important to understand. The strategy is the treatment path that that customer and their open items will be subjected to. So by treatment path, I'm referring to, do you make a telephone call? Do you want your collector to make a telephone call? And when do you want that telephone call to be made? Is it pre-due? Is it post-due? Do you want reminder letters to be sent? So a strategy can have a number of different event steps, a mixture of calls and letters. So that provides you with a very, very kind of high level overview as to the infrastructure of PayDrive. So now I want to get into the case study that Martin has referred to. But before I do that, I just wanted to call out why we're partnering with Mega AI. And from a personal point of view, probably similar to many of you here, and looking at those poll results, it's something that intrigues you in terms of AI. I've been asking that question for the last couple of years. What does AI mean for orders to cash? And I have attended a number of webinars similar to this, where AI-powered solutions have been presenting their services and their functionality. And while some really, really impressive functionality out there, I've been left a little bit disappointed each time, thinking, surely this is machine learning or RPA rebranded. And it wasn't until I met Martin in the summer last year where I had that light bulb moment where I thought, is this the point whereby potentially we are on the verge here of machines learning human cognitive behaviors? So I was really, really excited once I got to learn about Mega AI, their journey, their solution. And as I said, we've partnered with Mega AI to integrate the AI voice bots with a PayDrive, an existing PayDrive customer. Just to give you a background and set the scene in terms of the profile of this. Traditionally, the senior management team have been early adopters of new technologies. They have a natural inquisitive nature to stretch the boundaries and to challenge. And some of that's born out of the fact that they have encountered, and as many of you probably have as well, recruitment challenges. And by that, predominantly since the COVID pandemic, it's been really, really difficult to be able to recruit staff to replace with your natural turnover, replace staff with reliable, qualified staff, and at the same time expected to take on more responsibility. So it's the classic case of needing to do more with less. As I said, they are a complex organization with multiple ERPs that are integrated with PayDrive. And with them being a private equity-backed organization, some of you will be part of organizations that are owned by private equity, or you've experienced it, and you'll understand it when I say it's a completely different ballgame working within a PE environment in terms of the focus and the attention around costs and efficiencies. And the final element I'm going to call out here is their debtor profile, the long tail. So what do I mean by long tail? In very simplistic form, if you were to track their customers from left to right in descending value, they'll fall into a roughly the 80-20 rule, where 80% of their AR balance is accommodated by 20% or less of their customers, and 80% of their customers will accommodate the 20% of their AR balance in very, very rough, simple terms. And what that means is, especially with the recruitment challenges, we've adopted segmentation and strategies where those higher value customers have been subjected to strategies which are a combination of letters and calls. The lower value, high volume customers have been subjected to a letters only strategy. And it's that box that we're targeting with this integration with Mega AI. So what we're doing with the PayDrive client, we're taking their letter only strategy and applying a mega twist. I've got an extract here from our admin user interface. I'm not going to go through that. I'm going to go through all of the details on here. But what you can see on the left-hand side is currently there are 4 steps. So that's 4 events that will occur in sequence as a balance becomes progressively older. So there are 3 letters, post-due letter 1, 2, and 3, and then there's a decision made by the business. Do we disconnect the account? Do we write the debt off? Do we refer it to third-party collection agents? So with our technical integration with Mega, what we are doing is embedding new events or new steps, new Mega events throughout this strategy. So the first step would be if a customer meets the criteria to fall into the segment, which is being applied to this strategy, when an invoice meets the criteria, and in this instance, we're going to adopt a pre-due call. So it's a pre-due call that's going to be a courtesy call to try and unearth any disputes that may be present, to get confirmation that they've received the invoice, to get confirmation that the invoice is going to be paid. So if an invoice is, say, 10 days before due date, an event will be created automatically by PayDrive. That information will be fed across the API that we have. It'll include information around the invoice or the invoices in question, the balance, the dates, the contact details for that customer, the name, the contact telephone numbers. And that information will be fed through to Mega AI. The bots will commence the campaign at a predetermined time. So that might be at 10 a.m. that morning after the accounts payable teams have got in, had a gossip at the water machine, had their coffee, sat down. The bots will make the telephone calls. The outcome of those calls will then be fed back via the API into PayDrive, and an event will be automatically created, and an audit trail will be there to be seen with information around the outcome, what the conversation took place. Now, in simplistic terms, it might be that the customer confirmed, yes, I've got the invoice, happy with everything, it's set up for payments, you'll get it by the end of the month. So the bot will be trained to recognize that payment promise, will feed that back through to PayDrive. Payment promise event is created in PayDrive. Great. Another instance might be that the customer will start to identify that actually I can't pay the invoice. It could be a pricing dispute. So the bot will be trained to recognize where there's a dispute and provide the opportunity for the customer to be transferred or to be handed off to a human being. So this is where we're talking about the bots supporting the humans in the order to cash process. So that customer will be transferred back into an operator. They'll take all of the details of the dispute, and then they'll generate the appropriate dispute within PayDrive, and then the dispute resolution process will kick in. Now, ordinarily, we would hope that customers will be paying those invoices early in the collection cycle. But the way the strategy has been built is that we will continue to generate letters at predetermined points in time, and then those letters will be followed by additional voice bot calls. Now, if you can see here, we're proposing a mega final call. Now, the pre-due call, it will be a softly. From an empathy point of view, it will be a gentle call, if you want, in terms of the assertiveness and the tone of voice. By the time a customer gets to step 7, the bot assertiveness will be ramped up, and that will associate with the age of the debt and the seriousness of the situation. So this is how the technical integration and the strategy that we have generated and will be working with our client to implement. But behind every technical integration, there are a number of key change management and procedural steps that need to take place in planning for success. So Martin's going to take you through those elements of the program in order to take us through to the final integration with the client.
I think, Martin, just before you go on to that bit, got a couple of got a question here I'd like to raise from John, and it comes back to what you were saying about the long tail and so on, Martin. Is there a customer number stroke amount of receivables minimum that justifies working with Mega in this case? So, in terms of like your minimum number of bots and that kind of thing, what would you say was the optimum number or minimum number of customers to start on this project?
I think the most of clients that start on this project have a couple, plus 10, 20,000, potential outbound calls a month. But again, this is not something you are going full scale. The most of our big enterprise clients, we start a place, we develop together. So I think that, and it depends on the complexity of the assignment. So you can also have less cases, but more complex conversations. And again, the best places where we fit in where actually the thing Neil also addressed, where there is a recruitment problem, there's too many calls, too little staff to handle them, or you want to use your staff on other assignments. So minimum, the normal customers have around 20,000 plus outbound calls, inbound calls a month, or they don't do them today, but they have that amount of letters that they send out and want to begin following them up with AI calls. So that's normal.
And on a 3 Dunning letter cycle, that's kind of, I don't know, 5,000 to 7,000 customers. So it's not that many customers. It's that number of outbound calls. Okay.
And just to add to that, Mark, I would say, and it's probably the easy get out response, but it's not a one size fits all. And what we would recommend is within our solution, you'll have the ability to tweak that segmentation structure. So that segmentation structure, so within a sandpit environment, what we would propose to do is load your live data, set your segmentation model. So this letter only with a mega twist strategy, you might start and say, okay, well, customers with an AR balance less than 500, or an average monthly turnover is what we actually use, less than £500. And then you can run it through and model it within our sandpit environment to say, okay, so this is how many customers that would then result in who fall into that segment. And of those customers, how many of them would therefore generate a pre-due call? So you can have a play around and adjust and tweak it to understand how many bots would you need, roughly how many telephone calls would that result in as that pre-due call. So it's a little bit of a suck it and see, but within a test stamp it type environment.
And there's and when we're saying about this 20,000 calls, for example, when you go back to what you were suggesting earlier, Neil, about having onboarding calls and welcome calls and stuff like that, it doesn't take long to get to that 20,000, and I'm all for that. There's something we discussed. We used to do that in writing like 30 years ago when I was working at TNT. We'd send a customer a form, with all the information, your contact, your credit controller is, your salesperson is, your credit limit is. You'd have all this information sent to you as a welcome. And I think as companies are very much into the customer experience these days, I think a nice welcome, even if it is from a bot, I think that's a good thing to do.
It's something that you don't do today. So if you don't do it today, then it's a good thing. So that little extra attention, extra focus, extra professionalism, as long as it's a good experience, that's a really strong position.
We got the opportunity to either bring back some old good practices that have fallen away or change the future. Something else I'd like to add just as we're going through the slides. And John, if you want to jump in on your comment, please feel free to add to that. I was also going to say, as you were going through the the collection calls, pre-due date and post-due date. And of course, you said the dunning letters get more assertive, which is normal, right? It's been that way forever. I think I should also stress, and something Martin and Mega have been making a lot of reference to recently, is the aspect of vulnerability as well. So, one of the key things about this is and from what I've seen myself so far, is these bots have a degree of sensitivity, right? So it's not one size fits all. The voices aren't the same. So if you've got a group of customers that are vulnerable in the true sense of the word, which can mean, I don't know, you got a series of pubs that are struggling, or restaurants, or you could be in the utilities, so you're calling individuals. This is one of the critical factors, I think, is this sensitivity that goes around this. It's not the bailiffs going in some kind of aggressive format. Yeah. Martin,
I think it's a very interesting, because there was somebody of you put a comment in the beginning, consistency. So these things are some of the things that I struggle with, is to learn people or have that consistency of spotting example vulnerable clients, which in some industry will become very serious by the end of or in summer, especially in the UK sector now, where you need to do it by law, but also out of an ethical perspective. And some of the consistency here that I love about this is that we have now trained, as you said, the bots to spot vulnerable client or vulnerable signals and report it back, or by it spotting a vulnerable signal, vulnerable words, it can then trigger something back to Neil's system, and Neil can then, in a strategy, take another route.
Right. I think somebody's just chatting there with their mic on. If you switch that off, please. And I think that brings us nicely, Martin, into your next slide. We were talking about master data. Right now, we've spoken about this many times with Callisto and in these kind of forums here, that master data, the whole credit O2C team has to take responsibility for master data. And this is like all technology, this is only going to be as good as the quality of the master data. And there are many things in that. It's surprising. Well, it's not surprising. It's kind of quite a common thing now, how many databases don't contain telephone numbers. Well, this ain't going to work if you ain't got a phone number, right? It's as simple as that. But so many customers on the onboarding process, we don't have telephone numbers now. And there's other aspects as well, like Neil was referring to the dunning cycles. I know from my own experience, having done this quite a few times, that you'll find that the dunning letter cycle field in the master data has been suppressed, right? So again, you're not going to get these reminder letters or reminder calls if the dunning letter field has got a cross in it that says "Do not contact this customer," the reminder. So that's why, in the Callisto Academy, we say that if you're going to be effective credit teams, you have to own the whole process right from the point of, order to cash is not enough. It's right to the point of master data, and we have to be responsible for that. Because if you think about it, master data is everything that goes on an invoice, and it's only us that are responsible for the collection of the invoices, right? So there has to be a lot of silo busting going on here, a whole new way of thinking, right? And also, as the upskilling of the people working in operations, very much what we're about. Our work is very much to upskill people for technology improvements. And when it comes to budgets, right, I really believe that training the credit order to cash teams, the budget should be part of the tech IT budgets and not just learning and development, right? Because the two things are not separate. All right. So we kind of kicked off on master data then. So if you want to crack on, Martin, on there.
Well, but you said, as you said, that is a general problem, and so I think that, and I have known that problem for also my old industry. So yeah, you want to get started, you want to plan how do you get success with introduce AI voice bots in your processes. If it's pre-collection, if it's some welcome calls in the collection process that will lead to the right invoices in utility, if it's meter reading, to you want to do reminder letters, you want to do collection calls, whatever that looks like. You need to have, as you said, a master data that is cleansed. You need to have phone numbers. Is something that because of we're seeing so many companies not in super control over this, we try to build it in to our bots actually very soon, that we will be able to update data that is not correct, because that's the industry I'm coming from. For the last whole my life, I've been finding phone numbers on companies and people. And then you could say resources, the human component to support the bots. Neil, you said it, a letter-only strategy for 80% more or less of the client portfolio. We will now be calling them by bots. We can take the initial calls. We can look inside the pay drive system about invoices. We can talk with the client. We can have very long conversations with the client, but there is a need somewhere. And we will also, for some client, just give them the option. If you want to talk to a human, let me know. You can also say there is no possibility to talk to a human. I don't think I would recommend that way in general. I would recommend the collaboration between the bots and the human.
Yeah.
So you need some humans at work, and you need to have some kind of capacity to be able to take those calls that we will transfer. For some clients, we are actually solving over 49% of all the dispute, the payments, in the phone, but there are still people who want to talk to a human, and there should be that possibility.
Got a couple of belting questions on
Yes,
that
please,
subject from Patrick. Have you had any feedback from customers that they recognize the fact they're being contacted by a bot and got negative response from that?
No, because in the US market where we are now, I don't know why they work like that, but it's not up to me how they want to train the bots. But they don't say it's a bot, and you can actually turn we call it humanizing up temperature on a bot, so you are not able to hear that it's a bot. I wouldn't recommend that. I would recommend that you can hear it's a bot still. I will also recommend, especially in the country I'm coming from, and I think general in Europe, when you start the conversation, to say, "Hi, I'm an AI assistant calling from this company."
That's the next question from Bart, actually. The next comment is, shouldn't you indicate that a bot is calling is part of the new EU AI Act? That you have to say at the beginning,
it's not clear in stone. I have recommended it since we began to do that, and you should be very transparent about what you are. I would actually say the most of my client, they have it in their letters that they send out in the letter strategy, that we will be calling you by our AI assistant. You can just tell it you want to talk to a human. Is that what you want? Give the customer that choice. So yes, be super transparent about what you are, and never try to fraud a client for anything else. I would be furious if I spent 10 minutes with a bot and found out it was not a bot, it was not a human, if I thought so. So simplicity, don't try to start and just say, hey, let's just change everything. I had a client yesterday asked, I have 12 people, can I get rid of them and then just replace them by bots? So that's no, not at all. I would say introduce it into a small strategy, begin small steps, and then take it further as we go. Your humans will then be able to take more assignments, more difficult assignments, spend their time on more complex customers. So there is a process, and you want to start one place, and then you want to escalate it over time. And then sorry, Mike?
No, carry on.
No, one of the most important thing here is the training of the bots. You said, Neil, a word, one size don't fit them all, and precisely. So these bots here has to be trained for every client we have. It's not a long, complex process, but if you hire a new person, a new human, you want to train them. You want to give them material. You probably want to set them over and co-listen to a human colleague. You want to feed it with, then you have hired Callisto to come out, Callisto Grand to come out and train your people. You are doing that with a purpose of getting them to be better and better. You do the same with the bots. So you train it with live call, you train it with material, or we are now in a process with actually training them together with Callisto Grand and with Mark Harrison and his team, because everything they know, especially the whole part of dispute handling, how the bot should react, what it should be triggered by, how it should be listened for signals, all those things, and how to behave. That is a training scenario that comes out that you also need to spend some time on doing that.
Very much so. It's a great opportunity for the credit teams to really review their portfolios, and all these technologies will only really work if the credit order to cash team takes total ownership of it. If you've got salespeople still kind of saying, well, we won't call that customer or that customer, I think when we're looking at segmentation, we have to be quite firm about this, and so these accounts qualify, therefore they qualify, and they wouldn't get these calls if they paid on time. Let's never forget that,
Exactly.
right? Let's never forget that. Couple of great questions here. One for you, Martin. Do you have any stats on calls duration to see if customers hang up because they know they're talking to bots? I think you got lots of that information from
Yes.
working with the debt collection agencies and so on. Yeah. So I think we can probably take that offline. The answer to the question is yes, you have. And I would say to Alexandra, talk to Martin in more detail because you can share some of that info, can't you?
Of
Because you
course.
started working with the debt collection agency right from the beginning, with tens of thousands of customers and so on. So they do have a good amount of data on that. And it's a great question. And also, how are we handling now? This is a very good question actually for you both. We've got our AR bots. How does it work when they're talking to AP bots? Right, which is also going to a thing now, yeah. So how does that work, right? And what's your experience on that?
You talk the ERP?
AP, you got one of
Yeah.
your bots talking to a bot on the other side, the accounts payable side. Um, what's the experience or scenario with that?
It's
'Cause
a
we've
it's
got
a
loads of
funny
portals now, yeah.
Yeah, it's a funny question. It's also scary to saying when
A
when
great
when will
question.
when will my bot begin to talk with your bot? And
Yeah.
you can control the bots, of course, what it can say and what it cannot say. So the whole control and quality apart from our side is very strong. We have actually asked our bots. So when if we talk with you during the next couple of months, I will send some conversation. Our bot called another one of our bots, and they had a quite good conversation. So that's possible. The next thing is an ERP system that it will be calling. We are working on that as an example where you call up and there is an ERP bot picking up the phone. You want to
Yeah.
talk for finance, and we are training the bots and talking with other bots. So that's the
As
future.
as
That's
Bart
the
says here, they have long conversations. They're trying to outbot each other, right?
No,
You
yeah, yeah, yeah,
know?
and you're right. Actually, it's actually about controlling them. So you can have very long conversation and very skilled conversation with the bot in a collection on order to cash process. You will not allow the bot to talk very long. You will
Yeah.
control it
Limit
to
the
say
time.
this is why you are here.
Mm.
I'm here to solve this problem. Anything else, I'm not here to support. And
Mm.
if they continue, you can just say, let me transfer to a human, or let's focus on the
Yeah.
reason for my call today. So yeah, you're right. You could have very long, but you could also control it to not have very long conversations. So good
Next
question.
question, which I think comes back to some of the stuff you were saying earlier, Neil, where the potential beyond just calling customers is um, your experience so far with bots also doing internal communication, for dispute handling, for example, stuff like that, which I think actually is I think that there's as much or more potential with internal communication than there is for external. Yeah. So yeah, what's your experience so far on that, Neil?
Yeah, and we'll cover a couple of areas on the next slide, but I think there is. I haven't got experience of it yet, so it's a vision as to where these bots can be utilized in other areas, excuse me, of order to cash, whether that be communicating internally or whether that be communicating externally. We obviously internally we have a deluge of instant messages depending upon what solution your company is using. We get dozens and dozens of emails every day. So should the bots be another mode of communication internally? I suppose one question I would have is how many people actually use phones? So how many people have desk phones? So it would probably need to be via mobile phones because we all tend to have mobile phones glued to our hips. But I think certainly there's opportunity internally to look at that as a potential benefit. Yeah.
I think, and what's interesting about this is that I've been reading a lot of articles that the phenomenon now is we don't actually talk to each other. We seem to be losing the ability. So we WhatsApp each other or we message each other. This is actually kind of reversing that process in some respects, or it's compensating for the fact that us as humans struggle to talk to each other now,
Yeah.
prefer to write to each other. So it's kind of filling in that place, isn't it? That space. So okay, let's crack on. We've got like 10 minutes left. I know we've got a couple more slides, and I'm sure there'll be more questions. So let's care, but a great conversation, and keep the questions coming. We got some belters so far. Onwards.
So, as I just alluded to, in terms of future possibilities, now I would expect that some of you, as we've been talking through these slides and bringing this case study to life, you've probably had a few moments where you thought, actually, there's an opportunity to use this type of technology here or within this part of our process. And I've been doing that myself over the last couple of months. So a little bit of internal brainstorming, but also talking to clients and talking to people in my network. What are the future possibilities? So within this case study, what we're referring to here is, whilst it's really, really new technology being applied to a traditional element of order to cash, which is making an outgoing telephone call to try and obtain payment from a customer. So aside from that, I think there are so many other possibilities. One area that we've already had conversations with this client is around inbound. So we're talking about having outbound voice bots making telephone calls. We're still going to be sending a large volume of reminder letters out through PayDrive. Those reminder letters are going to generate responses. It could be an email response. It could be a telephone response, especially if you're very cyclical in terms of your invoicing, so due dates falling all at the same point. Your reminder letter runs at certain times of the month are going to be pretty high in terms of volumes. So let's use those bots to handle those incoming calls and to triage those calls from customers. You mentioned this before, Martin. You stole my Mark. You stole my thunder in terms of welcome calls. Something that's very a traditional element that used to take place earlier in my career as well is you've onboarded a new customer. That's the moment in time when they're engaged. They know, they remember you to interact with them. But it's a luxury. You're not going to hire an army of staff to make those welcome calls. But as part of that onboarding, the new customer's details arrives in PayDrive the following day. Let's use the bots to make a welcome call to the customer, to talk them through the process, to advise them what their payment terms are, to provide them with the details of where payments need to be sent, to provide them with their credit limit information and who their credit controller is going to be, who's been assigned, and what their contact details are.
I think it's a very good, just to break in some of the welcome calls also. I mean, I thought in order to cash process for one of many of our big utility, both business to business and consumer, their problem is that they're extending a wrong invoice because they didn't do a correct meter reading when the customer came in. So when they do a welcome call now, they can ask the customer, please give your numbers for the meter reading, and that lead just to an invoice being sent correct in the first place and not dispute and handling time for that. So I think just that small little thing can lead to both a good experience, but also not to sending the wrong invoices and then get paid on the right time because you did that little action. So sorry for breaking. I just needed to say it.
Good. Yeah, that's a good point. Good point. The third point here is PayDrive is going to be releasing a new module in the near future, which is around purchase orders. It's something that's been a bugbear of mine for many, many years. And I'm sure some of you are nodding away, thinking of the disputes that you're dealing with based upon purchase orders that have either expired or have run out of value. So we're launching a new module in the near future where you can manage and track your customers' purchase orders within PayDrive. So as invoices are hitting PayDrive, they'll be applied to the purchase order. And we'll be sending alerts, internal alerts, as purchase orders reach their expiration date or as they reach their value threshold. And again, going back to that question before, Mark, this could be where we're talking about using voice bots rather than just being email alerts internally. It could be voice bot calls internally. It could be voice bot calls to the customer to advise them that a purchase order is about to expire and they need to initiate a new purchase order. Similar to the welcome calls, first invoice checks. So when that first invoice lands in their inbox, a voice bot call to ensure that they've received it. Are there any questions? Are there any questions with that invoice? Goods delivery confirmation calls. So there are companies out there that are employing people to make a telephone call after each delivery has been received to confirm it was received, it was the right quantity, it wasn't damaged before they then initiate the invoicing process. Martin talked about master data validation checks. So a solution and a service that Mega offer is to assist you with that data cleansing and passing that cleansed data back to you to update your operational platform. The final element I was looking at here is around management of credit limits. How many times do customers' orders get placed on hold because there isn't adequate credit headroom left? So again, it's all around, is there an opportunity to, with that data within our solution, is that an opportunity to send voice bot calls out to customers at a point in time to advise them ahead of an order being placed? So the order hasn't gone on hold yet, but ahead of an order being placed, advising them of how much headroom they have, and for them to maybe make a pay down, or if there's an outstanding invoice, to clear that invoice, to therefore clear more headroom. So these were just 7 kind of themes or areas I was brainstorming with myself over the last month or so. But in reality, it's infinite, the number of possibilities. And the final point I would make on here, the only limit I see here is our imagination in terms of what this type of technology can do and how it can impact the order to cash arena.
I love that. Yeah, the limit it says your imagination or your knowledge, you know, and I think as I alluded to earlier, where a lot of companies have been working in silos, you know, for this to work to its 100% max, those silos have to go, and everybody working in order to cash. Now we need to go back to be working in credit control right from the beginning, right to the point of cash collection, and not I'm in collections, I'm in disputes, I'm in recording, reporting, whatever, because that's all these technologies are driving that. And you were saying just now about credit limit alerts. I think that's an example where that can be internally and externally.
Yeah.
When you start to build in predictive analytics and say, if you place this order in 3 weeks' time, assuming everything goes along as it is now, number of sales, payment trends, etc., this account will go on hold. And I guess the differential between bots and just written communication is that somebody's talking to you, or you're hearing a voice rather than just another email, right? That's a critical differentiator, isn't it? So
but we
it
are
kind of
also
brings
in a
to the top of the pile.
we are also in an environment where things change. There need to be more omni-channel strategy. Customers, either business to business or consumer customer, they want to be served. They want to serve themselves also when they want. So when you talk about inbound lines, if a customer want to call 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the evening, talk about the dispute or make payments, that's now possible. I talked with a big collection company the other day, and 40% of all their dialogues or payments have actually moved to self-service portals now. So people self-serve themselves and they said business to business customer, even the smaller one, they actually did a lot of the payments came in after 6 o'clock when there is no human. So also to offer that flexibility. And this is just another part of your omni-channel. It don't replace, there's humans, there's letters, there's SMSs, there's emails, and now there's also this possibility.
And if you're going to be a global business service, you can actually be a global business service, and time zones are not quite such a challenge as they have been if you can have, bots operating through
I
the
saw
night.
one question short. I just want to add on that where I said I didn't agree that welcome call was good. I think that you're right. Actually, I would do a welcome call by a human, but if I had, like you have, Neil, in this customer case, 80% letter only strategy, there is not that possibility. So if you cannot do it with human, which should be the preferable one of such an important call, then this is a better opportunity of not doing anything other than a letter, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you, Martin. And I think if we're all being honest here, how many of us operating within the order to cash arena are doing welcome calls? It's few and far between because it's deemed as a luxury.
That was the point I made.
experience.
Patrick made a great point. I said the good thing is it's kind of bringing that subject back onto the table, and then it's client's choice how they want to go about it, right? So but it's interesting, it's bringing up so many points here. If you just go to we got 2 minutes left, so if you just go to our last slide, please, just for my reminders. So yeah, I had 12 questions down here I was going to ask the guys, but we've had such a fantastic discussion. I've not got to, I think I managed to get to two of them through the course of talking, which is a tribute to you guys, the subject, everybody also on who's been on the chat, and fantastic hour. We could have done another hour, that's for sure, right? I'm sure we will somewhere in the future. We had a fantastic number of people joined us today. We were 68 at our peak, which is fantastic. So thank you so much. Neil and Martin, you can see in London on March the 20th. They're joining our conference. So if you haven't registered yet, please come and join us. Registration closes in about a month's time. We'd love you to come. They'll be doing demonstrations. You can ask more about this and all the other functionalities.
Did we cover off the poll results, Mark?
We had a quick look. It was kind of 60% were interested, wasn't it? Or 50 odd percent of people were interested. The majority definitely want to look at this more, right? Because so I'm sure you're going to get lots of follow up and feedbacks, right?
Yeah,
So
I love it.
yes. So thank you all very much again. We'll be back. We're back next week with a members only session on avoiding burnout next week. And then we're back also the week after with the first coffee club of the year. So follow us on LinkedIn for what's going on with Callisto. I'll also hook you up with PayDrive and Mega as well. So as always, as we say, take care, stay safe, God bless. And as it says here, hopefully if it comes across, Carpe Diem. Seize the day, make it happen. Bless you all. Talk
Thanks,
to you very
guys.
soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Have an
Thank you.
amazing day.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Have a
So
nice
much.
day.
Okay.